perhaps a simpler way of looking at it all, the Coinbase index. It's basically the Dow of the crypto world. It tracks 4 of the biggest currencies that trade on their platform, and now you can access that on CNBC.com. The man behind it all is Fast Money friend and the president of Coinbase, Asiff Hirji. Now Asiff has a big announcement to make. We will get to that in just a few minutes, but we do want to start off with the overall environment because, Asiff, it has been a pretty tough one. So we just had this report about taxes and how there could be some selling because of that. Is that what you're getting from your clients?
I've certainly had some clients, for sure, who've contacted us to do large selling because of tax. That's absolutely going on. Is it the main cause of what's happening? I'm not sure. I think there are potentially other causes too. I personally get comfort in the fact that this correction has happened 4 times in the past, right? So if you look back at history of say Bitcoin, which is the longest running asset, there's been 4 times where it's corrected by 50% or more, and each time there's been either 6, 9, or sometimes 3 years between that and when it got back to the peak. So we've seen this before. Not that history is necessarily predictor of the future, but whether it's tax, whether it's something else, this is inherent in the asset class. It runs up a lot and it corrects, and I personally am not surprised by that, and I wouldn't be surprised if it came back pretty strongly.
Do you get a sense that crypto investors or crypto traders are traders who also like to trade stocks in a volatile environment? And I'm asking you this because in 2017, we saw a huge run-up in the price of cryptocurrencies across the board, and it was a very low volatility year.
Yep.
Here we are in a period where volatility has really picked up, and maybe just coincidentally, we're seeing cryptocurrencies trade lower.
Sure. I do think that active traders chase volatility, and as we talked about in the past, they chased asset classes. So it went from equities to options to futures to now crypto. I do think crypto is still the most volatile asset class out there at the moment. And if you're an active trader, that's where you're going to be. But I think there's another big trend that's coming, which is it's maturing as an asset class. And now you're seeing investors come into crypto, hence the index that we talked about the last time I was here. And then we also talked about the index fund that we've got going. And that, I think you'll see more and more investors. You've seen more institutions in the space than ever before. It is maturing, and so I don't think it's just for the active trader.
So you mentioned the index fund, and that's something as you have more mature investors come into the space, do you expect that to be vol dampening? So you basically have investors who maybe don't know how to trade a currency, and they're trading in a very volatile fashion, but they can look at the NAV of your index and they can go in and they can have that exposure. I
think it will dampen volatility to some extent. I think the rise of futures has already dampened volatility to some extent. I think the rise of these investor vehicles will do that. By the way, we've had tremendous take-up on the fund, well beyond anything we were expecting. And I know people are asking about when can I get in. We will launch it shortly, shortly being very soon. But we've already got initial indications of interest. We've already got the initial customers signed up, and touch wood. There's no wood here, but touch wood. It's been well beyond our expectations, and so we're very pleased about the fund. It's confirming what we thought, which is there's actually more demand on the investor side than there is on the trader side.
So that's the question, Asiff. What is holding back a big institution in Boston, the typical ivory towers that everyone likes to court? What's holding these guys up?
So a great question. I think the biggest thing is where and how do you custody it? This is not like any other asset class. This is a very significantly complex asset. If you think about just the complexity of trying to custody it, to keep it secure, to deal with airdrops and deal with forks, which are effectively corporate actions like dividends or stock splits. That's not easy stuff, right? And we've been doing it for longer than anybody else. We announced that we were launching a custody product. And I'm delighted to say today that we are taking on board our very first clients. These are some of the biggest names in crypto that you can imagine. And so it's an institutional offer. It is exactly the kind of thing that an asset manager would need if they wanted to get into the space. And so when we and others who I'm sure will follow show up with a qualified custodian legit offer, you will see more asset managers enter the space. But custody is where the biggest bottleneck is at the moment.
Makes sense.
Let me ask you, you talked a little bit about dampening volatility. We have futures now where you do have the ability to be short, at least at the Bitcoin anyway. Is there going to be the ability to be short your basket? Or how, I don't know what the instrument will be.
The actual index, I would expect that there will be. So our market data already powers the futures that are out there. And I would expect that you could use our index to create a basket future. just like you would for any other asset class. And that's in fact that's why we put it together. It's why we've actually released it in the public. We want people to use it to use it for things like futures or things like funds or things like volatility instruments like options. Right? I think all those things will come. They have to come if this asset is going to mature. They have to come.
You've come here to make a big announcement. What is it?
So we have. I'm really pleased to say that we're launching today the Coinbase Ventures Fund. So this is our vehicle. It's where we're going to invest off our balance sheet into crypto companies. And let me stress, companies, not currencies. Right? We will invest in companies that are in the space where we feel like they're aligned with our mission and aligned with our values. These are going to be seed stage investments. We're very fortunate that Coinbase has been a great place for a lot of entrepreneurs to come already. We've already had a number of alumni start great companies, and we have a number of entrepreneurs who come to us to start their companies within Coinbase. And so this is a natural part of our evolution as a company. And so you'll see the fund, you'll see its first investments. In fact, they're going out this week, and we're super excited about the fund.
How do you delineate between a company that is a company as opposed to a cryptocurrency or a coin? I mean, for instance, Ripple is a company. I mean, they have a platform, but they also have not to bring up Ripple constantly with you because it feels like we are. But that's a prime example of a company that has a platform, but it's got XRP.
Right.
And so by investing in that company, if you decide that you wanted to add that to the platform, it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
There is. That's a great question. It's exactly one of the reasons why we've said we are not investing in currencies, is because we don't want even the appearance of a conflict of interest, right? So we are going to invest in early stage companies, primarily around founders that we know, the part of the alumni network or part of that group, who are building what we think are compelling businesses that move the mission forward of a more open financial network. And by giving them capital and access to our expertise, we hope that they will grow great businesses. It's not about investing in the token. It's not about trying to line up tokens that we would later put on our exchange. It's really about trying to help the ecosystem mature.
How big is the fund? How big do you think the fund will be as a percent? I mean, as a percent of your business. How should we think about it?
Yeah, I don't. It's going to be de minimis in terms of our profitability or our returns. We hope to do good and do well. But it's already off to $15 million in the first instantiation, and it'll grow as we grow over time.
And I think I know what your answer is going to be, but when's the next coin going to be added to Coinbase? I have to ask you that.
No, you have to ask me that. And
I mean, another one in 2018, I would imagine.
And you have to answer it a certain way.
I have to answer it a certain way, which I can't talk about any specific tokens because that would be material non-public information. Sure. But the general answer I can give is, look, we are. From the very beginning, we have said we are on the right side of where the regulations are. Okay, so we've always tried to play within the regulations, be the white player in the space that's full of a lot of gray, if not black. You cannot then list things for which there's regulatory uncertainty because that doesn't fit with our mission. So the assets that we do list have all had some amount of regulatory certainty around them. As soon as there is more regulatory clarity than there currently is, you would expect us to start listing more assets. And I think the way you should think about it is we made an announcement about ERC20 tokens. Okay? The way you should expect is our custodian will basically handle everything. In an equities world, that's everything from the blue chips all the way through the pink sheets. In the crypto world, you'll have the same thing. So the custodian will handle everything. Our exchange will handle a subset of what is on our custodian. Right? You will see that traded. Our broker will allow you to trade a subset of what's on the exchange, what's suitable for you.
Sure.
Okay? And the asset manager, the fund, will have a subset again of what's on the fund, of what's on the exchange. That's the way you should think about it. So we will bring up assets first on the custodian, and then they'll come to the exchange, and they'll come to the broker, and they'll come to the fund. That's how you should think about it. Hopefully more this year, but that depends on regulatory clarity.
Do you feel like right now you are listing all of the coins that you can that have regulatory certainty?
Yes.
So all the other coins that are not listed currently, you think there is regulatory uncertainty?
Correct.
Okay.
We are not in a position where we would look at them and say, there's sufficient clarity that we can list them.